Good morning and welcome to the show, and happy 4th of July weekend. We are honored to have Colonel Al Wimmer, who is Director of Operations at AFNORTH.
You bet.
Air Forces Northern.
Air Forces Northern.
Or
correct.
the CONUS-NORAD region.
Or the CONUS-NORAD region and the CONUS-NORAD region. We're dual-hatted. And there's a third hat to our command, 1st Air Force.
And 1st Air Force. And that's something I can relate to,
There you are.
having been an alumni of 1st Air Force in the continental
Absolutely.
United States NORAD region, which is a mouthful, isn't it, Colonel?
It is. And then if we add CONUS, Continental United States, I think you just did that.
Yeah.
NORAD, North American Aerospace Defense Command.
Sir, 1st Air Force, CONUS-NORAD region, AFNORTH, do a lot of things.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, you have a lot of missions. It's not like you can pick an organization and say, okay, our mission is air defense. It's so much more than that, isn't it?
Absolutely. We talk about the three hats, 1st Air Force, force provider, organized, train, and equip. So we oversee preparing that air defense enterprise for duty here in the United States. Under the CONUS-NORAD region hat, we are responsible for that air defense of the continental United States. That's got a lot of faces and a lot of facets.
Yeah.
You know, you think of fighters and jets and interceptors. While that's the sexy part and the pointy end of the spear,
Sure.
there's a lot behind that enterprise, the command and control, and the rules and the orchestration of that.
Over the years, I've watched 1st Air Force evolve, you know, from a pre-9/11 type stance to a post-9/11 type stance.
Yes.
And I just remember back in the day, pre-9/11, 1st Air Force was an organization that was literally fighting for its life.
Yes.
There was no more peer competitor in the world. Who's going to attack us by air? And then, bam, 9/11 happens.
Certainly made a lot of sense at the time. No more peer competitors. The Cold War was over. Peace had broken out. Why do we need this air defense and the expenditure for air defense? 9/11, of course, changed a lot of things in the world, and we were one of those.
And it changed a lot of our thinking and a lot of the way we do business insofar as air defense is concerned.
Absolutely. We had to stop looking just outside our borders, which we were built for, and we'd existed for 50 years or so to do that, almost 50 years. We suddenly had to turn and start looking inside the borders. We'd never contemplated that before. Actually having to chase down and potentially target one of our own airliners.
You know, because prior to 9/11, hijacking was really a law enforcement issue, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
I mean, I guess the model was someone would hijack an airplane, take it to Cuba, make some demands, and that was that.
And in fact, the training even for the airline pilots was 180 degrees out of what it is today. Back then, the training was cooperate, and you'll get through it, give them what they need, and eventually, you know, they'll let you go. That was the logical outcome. Today, it's completely different.
It is.
Today, it's defend the cockpit. They will not get access to the cockpit because, unfortunately, some crazy people out there proved that they could take an airplane and use it as a weapon.
And I think the 4th of July is probably a good time to really talk about what you all do out there. I mean, you're really keeping us safe from people who want to inflict harm on the U.S. and on our citizens.
24/7, 365. Our Air Operations Center is manned and on the watch. We like to say America's Airmen on the watch because we are. Those scopes are manned 24/7, watching for those threats. Every single air track that comes into or leaves the United States is watched.
And an air track is what?
An aircraft that is approaching the airspace or departing the airspace. And as we said, after 9/11, now everything inside the airspace is watched.
So when we're out there flipping burgers and looking at fireworks and having a good time, there's going to be people on scope. There's going to
Absolutely.
be people in that Air Operations Center surveilling the airspace outside the U.S. for
Absolutely.
incoming traffic and over the U.S. as well.
In every one of our command and control nodes, we have 2 air defense sectors. Those are the primary guys on the scopes watching everything. And they're not looking at every single airplane, but they're waiting for one of those tracks to highlight itself as something we need to be concerned about. There are thousands of tracks every hour in the United States, obviously. We have our Air Operations Center here, which is the operational headquarters that oversees that enterprise, and we report to headquarters NORAD out in Cheyenne Mountain in Colorado Springs.
Right here in Little Old Bay County.
Right here. We are responsible for overseeing the air defense of the United States.
We have to run off to the local weather, but I want to talk more about that and all the other things that 1st Air Force does on the other side of this break. And now to your local weather, brought to you by the West Pittman Law Firm, westpittmanlawfirm.com. Welcome back to the show. I'm speaking with Colonel Al Wimmer, who is the Director of Operations at 1st Air Force, Continental U.S., NORAD region, and Air Forces Northern.
Air Forces Northern.
How'd I do?
You got it.
Now, we talked about air defense. We talked about how here we are, 4th of July weekend, and we've got people who are working out there 24/7, and people don't even know it. They're sitting in a big dark room looking at scopes, protecting
Well, Americans don't know that. I think
Yeah.
they, on some level, expect that.
Yeah.
And we wear the uniform to deliver that. It's one of the reasons I signed up, to make sure
Well,
America's safe.
That's a good point, sir, because, the very least we expect for our tax dollar is to be defended against
Absolutely.
people who want to destroy us.
Absolutely. They're out there everywhere.
Oh, boy, don't we
You
know
and I
it.
both have been there and seen that, being stationed overseas and traveling the world. And this is the finest, greatest nation in the world. And until you go out there and experience those things overseas, it's hard to believe that things can be so different.
I mean, if you pick up a newspaper and you see how crazy it is out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it is.
Yeah,
It's
and
not
it's like,
just an
knock on
impression.
wood, we're living
It is
here.
crazy. And this country is just this place of peace and this place of freedom, and it's truly unique in the world.
And there are people out there that kind of resent that, don't you think?
Well, obviously they've demonstrated that.
Yeah, they certainly have in many ways. Now, 1st Air Force in the CONUS-NORAD region and Air Forces Northern,
Yes.
it's not just about air defense.
That's
There's
correct.
a whole other dimension to your mission, whereas you would lend support to civil authorities
Correct.
in a time of crisis.
An unusual paradigm for the military, not for the Air National Guard or the National Guard, but for the regular Air Forces, the military, is to serve our community here at home. Normally we're out overseas fighting those wars and being the tip of the sword, but here, again, we're responsible for defending our homes and our people. As you explained earlier, 9/11 changed a lot of things. One thing that changed was we stood up U.S. Northern Command, a combatant command responsible for this area of operations in North America. With that, they get a component from each service, and we are the air component for U.S. Northern Command, thus the title Air Forces Northern. Our primary mission set with them is defense support to civil authorities here in the United States. So, for example, there's a low-pressure system spinning up off of the east coast of Florida today, potentially hitting North Carolina, South Carolina on the 4th of July. We'll be prepared to offer support should it be required in disaster relief or support to those civil authorities.
When we talk about military organization and the standing up of new organizations and new paradigms for doing business, a lot of our civilian viewers will just kind of glaze over, like, yawn, okay,
course.
you've got a new org chart or something,
course.
But NORTHCOM is something rather unique, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Truly.
Or Northern Command. What does
Absolutely.
that mean to our viewers?
The world, as the United States sees it for the military, is divided up in areas of responsibility, AORs, and each of those is assigned a 4-star combatant commander who's responsible. We all hear CENTCOM. We're familiar
Sure.
with the war in the Middle East. He's the leader for those conflicts. Here in North America, in the United States, well, we don't like to fight wars here, so why would we need a combatant commander? Well, he is the leader for the Department of Defense, any military forces that are required here in the United States, North America, Mexico, Canada, the United States. If military forces are required, he's the leader.
So prior to the advent of NORTHCOM and 9/11 and all these other things that helped shape this organization, a lot of different organizations had a piece of that
You bet.
pie, didn't they?
You bet, you bet. And while it all works, any system will work if you want to make it. This focused it all in one direction under one leader. So he brought both the Homeland Defense, not just in air, so combined with NORAD, he's got air defense, maritime defense, cyber defense now as a major
Wow,
focus in the new
sure,
area. And it united everything under one commander for that focus. Now, that does not take the place of the reserve component, the Air National Guard, the Air Force Reserves, or the Army Reserves. They all still have their missions, and they still serve. The Guard serves under their governor, and you'll still see the National Guard out there from time to time. If it steps up to DOD and Title 10 or regular Air Force Army resources, it's going to fall under NORTHCOM.
So our Air National Guardsmen, our hometown Air Force that we have, is doing this national mission, really.
Absolutely. Right? It's a little bit of an unusual paradigm. Florida, Air National Guardsmen man our AOC, our Air Operations Center, 24/7.
Because when you think of National Guard, you think of guys filling sandbags for a flood or whatever.
Well, that's the most
Right.
visible part, I think,
Right.
for everyone. But yes.
But you don't think air defense, do you?
You don't. Not normally. Or manning the jets over at Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And sitting alert, at a site where they're sitting alert. But no, they run this Air Operations Center and they oversee that enterprise for the entire continental United States.
That's an amazing thing for the National Guard
Truly.
to undertake when you think about it.
For anyone, but for
Yeah.
the National Guard, it's a wonderful blend of the mission.
We've got to run off to another break, but on the other side of that, I want to talk more about this civil support role that the Air National Guard has, and that the people at First Air Force have out here at Tyndall Air Force Base. It's 4th of July weekend, and we're running off to your Mad Hatter tip. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm David Lovett, and this is your Mad Hatter Minute. Engine coolant, brake fluid, power steering fluid are all very important fluids that need to be changed. But the fluid that gets the least amount of respect, but is the most important that needs to be done, is the transmission fluid. Transmission fluid is a slippery liquid that lubricates all the moving parts of the internal transmission. In an automatic transmission, the fluid also acts as a coolant for the transmission. There are a variety of different fluids for automatic transmission. Shockingly, these fluids are called automatic transmission fluid. There are several different types. My best recommendation is to take the manufacturer's recommendation of what type of fluid to use in the transmission. Changing the automatic transmission fluid can be a messy process. First, you have to have access to the underbelly of the car. Secondly, you need to remove the transmission pan to gain access to the transmission filter. The transmission filter should always be replaced when changing the transmission fluid. Not changing the transmission filter is similar to changing your oil without changing the engine oil filter. You're cycling all the dirty contaminants right back into the transmission. How often should you change your transmission fluid? Well, it varies from manufacturer to manufacturer, but typically the manufacturer recommends every 30 to 60,000 miles. Check with your trusted local auto repair facility for them to give you the details. I am David Lovett, and that has been your Mad Hatter Minute.
Hey folks, this is Joshua Brown with Mad Hatter on 23rd Street. Is your check engine light on? If it is, text MADHAT28, that's MADHAT28, to 24247, and we'll check it for free.
Welcome back to the show. I'm speaking with Colonel Al Wimmer from 1st Air Force, the continental U.S. NORAD region, and Air Force's northern at Tyndall Air Force
You're a
Base.
pro now.
I know I was a pro before I started this job, but
Yes.
and I am an alumni of 1st
Absolutely.
Air Force. I know a little bit about what you guys do out there, but this mission continues to evolve, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It certainly
And
does.
You're always taking. That's just what I used to say to Sergeant Harlan when I worked out at Tyndall. It was like, this organization doesn't say no to anyone.
Absolutely
answer is
not.
always yes.
Absolutely. When it comes to the defense of the United States, what other answer could there be?
Absolutely right.
Or
Absolutely
helping
right.
our citizens. We spoke about defense support to civil authorities being an unusual role for a regular Air Force officer who's used to serving overseas. But how do you say no to the American people? I mean, they've organized, trained, equipped, paid for us, asked us to be there to serve, and what a great time to serve when they need our help.
So when there's like a Katrina type event, we learned a lot of lessons from Katrina, of course.
Oh, of course.
As did, I think, many levels of government, city, state,
I think just
whatever.
about every level of government learned something out of that experience.
They sure did. But now we are really leaning forward when it comes to this type of stuff.
Oh, in fact, that's one of the key terms that our commander at Northcom has used is anticipate and be prepared, never late to need. So we are, as we see storms spinning up like one is right now, we're certainly looking at it. We're looking at posturing resources. We will pre-deploy resources from time to time if it looks like it's going to be that serious. And while we're one of the last resources the government should call on, FEMA normally has the lead. The states and the cities will have the lead.
Because it is a civilian government,
Absolutely.
after all.
And that comes first. So the DoD is the last resource that's called upon, but should they need us, we will posture and be prepared to help.
So you'll be ready for
Yes.
the minute they pick up the phone and say, okay,
Yes.
military, we need your help. But that isn't the first reaction, is it? I mean,
No.
Usually local authorities will try and mitigate a storm or disaster,
Yes.
earthquake or whatever.
That is our national incident management system. It begins with the local authorities. When they need help, then they go to the state and other local authorities will come to their help or come to their aid. And then when the state becomes overwhelmed and needs those resources, they ask for the federal declaration. Now FEMA comes in and the federal government brings those resources. when the federal government's out of everything else, or if it needs a unique or niche capability that DoD possesses, then they'll call us and we'll call.
And one of those niche capabilities is airlift, wouldn't it be?
Uniquely, yes. If you remember Hurricane Sandy up in New York, we airlifted a number of power vehicles across the country to help them recover. So unusual for us to pick up a civilian provider's vehicle or bucket truck, essentially, and fly it across the United States, but we have that capability.
Yeah, and who else could possibly do it? When you think about
Nobody.
it. Unless they
there are
drive.
some civilian transport providers, but
Yeah.
they don't necessarily have the aircraft that we do configured the way we do to be able to drive vehicles like outsized vehicles like that on and drop them back off.
Yeah, and the Air Force can do it in a quick and efficient way. So
That's
why not?
what we train to do.
You know, it's probably not the cheapest option, I'm sure, but
Absolutely not.
But you know, why would you skimp?
Well, when minutes matter, that's when we
people's
can make
lives are at
things
stake,
happen.
when Americans in the homeland are
Absolutely.
threatened by
Absolutely.
some sort of catastrophe, whether it be man-caused or other. I
bet.
mean, it's
You
know,
bet.
it's time to
and
throw down.
We're here to serve, so that's a wonderful time to do it.
Sir, I meant to ask you, what are you going to do this 4th of July? Are you working?
Well,
or are you going to be able to squeeze a little time
I will
off
be
with
able
the
to
family,
squeeze in
or-
a little time with the family. They live in Colorado Springs. I'm stationed here apart from them, unfortunately, for a period of time. And so I will make it home to see them, and then I'll be serving on some duty following that at our headquarters at Peterson Air Force Base. So thankfully I get to see them, but there will be a lot of work.
A lot of people don't really appreciate the sacrifices that, you know, people in uniform make. I mean, there's family separation.
Yes.
I mean, sometimes you miss out on all the fun stuff, 4th of July and things like that.
Lost
sometimes.
count of the number of birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, and things
Yeah.
that unfortunately I've missed, and I regret every one of those. You talk about the sacrifice. It's not just me. I kind of knew that coming into this. I signed up for that, but my wife and kids, they didn't.
Yeah.
And they sacrificed just right beside me every time.
But however, when you explain it to the family, I think there's no higher calling than defending your nation.
Absolutely. I've felt that. If I didn't believe that, I wouldn't have stayed in for as long as I have.
Well, you know, we certainly appreciate what you're doing out there, sir, and we certainly appreciate what, you know, 1st Air Force is doing to protect the country and to protect our neighbors right here, and right here from
Absolutely.
little old Bay County, which
Right
is
here
great.
in little old Panama City, Florida.
And that's just amazing stuff. Thank you for your service, and
My pleasure.
have a great 4th of July.
My pleasure. Thank you, and everyone else out there, enjoy theirs.
Thanks for coming on the show.
You bet.
And we'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to the show. I am here with Madison, who is Jennifer Vigil's daughter, who is sitting in for her today yet again to tell us about this great app that I carry on my phone at all times called Live 850. Now, Live 850 has given us a pretty good wrap up here. Can you tell us what's going on this 4th of July weekend?
This morning there is the color run at 8 a.m. and then at night we're going to have fireworks in Pier Park and downtown.
The color run. I know we talked a little bit about it last time,
Yeah.
but for those of you who might have just parachuted in from planet Mars, the color run is kind of a cool thing
Yeah.
where you run and they throw powdered colors on you, like it's cornstarch or something.
You wear
I
white
think.
clothes and everything, and you get all dirty and get colors thrown all over you, and then go home and take a shower and get it all off.
Well, what if I don't want to take a shower and get it off? What if I like being purple and blue? Can I do that?
You can do that if you want to.
God, what else is happening this weekend?
Yeah.
I made her smile. You've seen it here first. I made Madison smile. Okay. And what else is happening this
And
weekend?
then on Saturday, there's going to be the Freedom Rocks at Grand Lagoon, more fireworks and live music and everything. So a second 4th of July, basically.
Yeah, Freedom Rocks.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So I'm looking over here. We've got Salute to Freedom. That's on the 4th. And that's Panama City, right? Marina. And then we've got the 4th of July Spectacular at Pier Park. I see that over here. The Panama City Beach Color Run that we just talked about. Freedom Rocks. And then that's the 5th. And then we're on to the following week here. This is such a cool app. It
Yeah.
really is. I mean, kudos to your genius mother for coming up with this.
She is a genius.
She is a genius.
Yeah.
Does that run in the family? Or does it skip a generation?
I think it's good. I'm a genius.
Of course you are.
Yeah.
Genius is something you have to grow into.
Yeah.
Now, along with the Live 850 app, we've got these wristbands.
Yep, yeah, discounts at all different places, including G. Foley's, which they're having a benefit dinner for Justin Ayers, who was killed earlier this month, or last
what
month,
a
I guess
tragedy
now.
that
yeah.
was. Yeah. That
So-
was awful. So if you go to G Foley's for that benefit, you can wear this thing and it'll get you a little discount.
Yeah, some kind of discount.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and there's going to be live music and everything for him because he was a musician.
Yeah, yeah. What a tragic thing that was. But this is good at other establishments around town as well.
Yep.
So when you go out on a Friday or Saturday night, it's kind of worth it to.
Yeah. Yeah, I
to
know they
keep
have
on.
Shea Almavita on there, which is a cute coffee place.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Is that down in St. Andrews?
Yeah.
Is that the one I'm thinking of? I've been there. That's a really cool
Yeah.
little place. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I keep these in my car. I keep them right on the stick shift in my car.
Yeah.
So you never know where you're going to wind up.
When you'll be able to
you might
use
need
it.
So I just whoop, throw it on and I'm off to the races with
Yeah.
that. So Madison, good luck with your studies and your
Thank
job. And
you.
thanks for sitting with Mom again.
Thank
and remember, live 850. Get it on your phone.